Have you ever wanted to crank your amp as loud as you wanted without bothering your family, your neighbors, or even the entire street? Can you shut up? Sorry. Well, today in this video I want to show you my new soundproof studio, the DEMVOX DV858 that I just built in my single car garage. So in this video I'm going to be showing you how I built it, why I decided to buy one, and also I'll show you around the booth as well and how well it works. Spoiler alert, this has been a game changer for me, so I thought it'd be cool to share it with you guys. So as someone who works from home teaching guitar and creating content, I've always kind of struggled to find the perfect balance between being productive and not disrupting my family life. With two small kids at home, the only time I could record was when my wife took the kids out of the house. To film my guitar tutorials, I require complete silence to ensure outside noise doesn't get picked up through the microphones. And if you have kids, well, you know that silence is a luxury. So that's one key use case for a booth like this, stopping external noise from coming in, a quiet space for recording audio, mixing, or doing work without distractions and noises around you. Now, the other main use case for a soundproof room like this is preventing noise from going out and disturbing others. So say goodbye to angry neighbors or your family telling you to turn it down. You can crank the music as loud as you want and play your instruments as loud as you want. Let me quickly show you around the booth itself so you can see how it looks, and then I'll speak about why I selected this particular product and how it was built. So all of the DV models come with a window and a solid door. This is the white melamine finish option, so it costs an extra 10%, but I think it's worth it. Looks really nice. There's a ventilation motor up there, which I'll talk about a little more later. And because there's space at the top, I've just thrown all my guitar cases up there. So it's actually really good for storage in this space of mine. So let's head in. This is the door, and sorry, you can see how thick that door is. And it's about 10 centimeters, or probably a little bit more, but that just goes to show you how sort of solid the booth is. So this is the inside of the booth. We got PET panels all around the perimeter, and you can just pull them off. They're just attached with some Velcro, and they just help with sound absorption. You can opt for these acoustic panels all around the sides as well, but I thought the PET panels looked nice. This is the cable access here, so to get into the cables, you unscrew this, and then your cables come through this access hole. Through the access hole, I've run the cable, the power cable that comes all the way around here, comes to the switch, and this controls both the lights above the booth and also the ventilation motor up the top. I've also routed a power cable that runs all the way around the side, and there's just a power point there for my amps and filming gear. So going back to the ventilation holes, there's one here and there's one up here in the ceiling. So you can configure it in a few different ways, but essentially what I've done is I've connected the motor to this upper hole, and I've gotten the motor to blow air out. So it's sucking air out of here and then up through the top of the booth. And the reasoning behind this is that you get cold air, which is lower to the ground, so that's being pulled up and out the top, out of the ventilation motor. So that's my DEMVOX booth, the DV858. You can also make this ceiling higher as well if you want to. This is an all modular system, so you can cater the size to whatever your space is. Now, before settling on the DEMVOX booth, I did a lot of research. I had a single garage space with approximately 3 by 4.5 meters to work with. I looked at 3 main players in the pre-built soundproof room space: Spanish companies DEMVOX and Studio Bricks, and finally Whisper Room in the US. I also inquired and looked at some local options here in Australia. Here's a quick breakdown of the options and costs. So first off, Whisper Room in the US, I received a quote 2 weeks after inquiring for $34,000 US with $8,000 US for shipping. Now, this didn't factor in any import and customs taxes for goods imported into Australia, But factoring that in, I would be looking at approximately 78,000 Australian dollars, including shipping and import fees. And this would not include any installation fees either, so it'd be something I'd have to build myself, which I believe isn't too difficult. They have a lot of options and features and add-ons, but it does seem quite expensive with that quote. Now, next was Studio Bricks out of Spain, specializing in sleek and easy to assemble soundproof booths, popular with musos and content creators. When you check out their website and the booths, they by far have the most sleek and elegant looking product on the market, I think. In Australia, you can buy their booths through a local distributor, and I got a quote for 60,000 Australian dollars, including shipping and assembly. Slightly cheaper than Whisper Room, but still above what I was prepared to pay. Now, the last of the big three companies I could find were DEMVOX, also based in Spain. They offer a range of customizable and modular booths designed for various applications, including music, podcasting, and broadcasting. Now, they did not have a local distributor, but after inquiring directly, I got a quote for around 20,000 euros, including shipping. Now, once taxes and customs were factored in, it ended up totaling 37 to 38,000 Australian dollars, including shipping and import duties. Now, the only downside is that I'd have to build it myself, but I was really happy with the price and what I could see online. I also explored some local options. One place gave me a quote to build a studio in the garage in situ, and said it could be anywhere from 30 to 50,000 Australian dollars plus upfront $3,000 consultation fee. Or there was a log cabin I could build in the backyard with concreting, electrical, and everything included for 60 to 96,000 Australian dollars, depending on the setup. These options came with no guarantees on a fixed cost or required building in the backyard, which wasn't ideal for me. Just way too many unknowns and would probably mean a lot of disruption time with trades coming in and going. So after comparing these options, DEMVOX ticked all the boxes for me. And in fact, their customer service stood well above the rest with fast responses, answering all the questions and doubts I had when I asked for a quote. And this gave me a really good feeling about them, so I decided to pull the trigger. Now, the ordering and purchasing process was pretty straightforward, and DEMVOX's customer service team was incredibly helpful in answering my questions about shipping and assembly. So after I confirmed that I wanted to go ahead with the DEMVOX, I sent some floor plans and dimensions of where I wanted to build the room, and their team drafted up some amazing 3D mock-ups and plans showing dimensions and how it would look in the space. After some back and forth to confirm design choices like the external finish, where the windows and the doors were going to go, I gave the go-ahead and I paid a 30% deposit in euros to their bank account. And then they started manufacturing my booth in Spain, and the parts were shipped on a boat to my house. Now, after paying the deposit, it took about 4.5 months to arrive at my doorstep on 6 large pallets, well packed and clearly labeled. Now, here's where the fun part started, and I'll admit I was a little bit intimidated at first. After opening the pallets, the first task was really to just organize and arrange the parts. And before having the booth arrive, I was sent the instruction manual and the detailed layout for my particular booth. So I had lots of time to read it. It took me about 1 day to unpack and sort all the parts, a few hours to measure and prepare the bearing pad levels, and roughly 2 days to assemble. It may have seemed daunting at the start, but once we got into it, it became quite a simple process. And it's actually amazing how simple yet precise their modular system is, a lot like Lego. So let's take a quick look at how it all came together.
All right, so we've got the first layer of the walls up, which wasn't too difficult. There were some tricky parts. Again, everything's built to sort of like millimeter precision, so there's a few spots where we really needed the mallet to get things into place. Gentle persuasion was the term Emsha's used. But yeah, all so far looking really good. And now we're going to do the second top layer of the walls now. All right, we officially now have a door, which is great. I've got to learn how to use it properly. Now we officially got a door, which is awesome. That was by far the heaviest part of this whole booth, but big thanks to Shiz over here. That's my nickname for him. His name's actually Matt. You want to say hi, Matt? And obviously Dave Scam behind the camera. Thank you. But yeah, we got all the walls up now, so we're now going to work on the roof. Once the roof's on, then we're going to just do the third interior layer, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so we've got the first layer of the ceiling on, and that was probably the trickiest bit of this build by far. A lot of tight spaces and obviously very heavy parts that you're trying to keep up whilst you're fixing things in. So we had 3 people doing the ceiling, and you know, at times it got pretty tough.
Completing the build with my friends, here are a few tips I recommend. Have at least 2 people build the booth. With 3 people, it took us, about 2 days to put everything together. And it would be almost impossible to do this yourself, so don't even try. Elements like the window and the door are extremely heavy, so for safety reasons, you definitely need more than 1 person on the job. Now, if you have a friend who's handy with tools and building trades in general, that's a bonus and will definitely help. Of course, you can opt for their installation service as well. Now let's get to the part you've all been waiting for. How well does this booth actually work? Now, I'm not an acoustic engineer, so this is a fairly unscientific test, but nevertheless, I set up a PA speaker in the booth, cranked it with some music, and measured the dB levels inside the booth at a set distance to the speaker. I then took a measurement outside of the booth with the door closed, but still at the same distance to the speaker. Here's what I found. That's a noise reduction of about 30 dB, which is roughly the sound pressure reduction of 99.9% or a perceived volume reduction of about 88%. Of course, your neighbors and your family aren't going to be going by their day-to-day lives right outside of your booth either. So once you start moving to other parts of the house or to, where your neighbors are, that noise drops even more dramatically. Again, that's a very unscientific test. DEMVOX have tested their product and have data from actual acoustic engineers, which I'm sure is much more reliable than mine. But how does it work in the opposite situation where I want a quiet space? Well, so far I've been really happy. I have not been able to hear the family around the house with the washing machine, dryers, TV, and kids. It's allowed me to do my work in peace, which is great. I will note though that if you're using the ventilation system, there is the tiniest ambient noise that you will hear, which isn't really the sound of the ventilation motor, but rather the sound of air flowing in the booth. Now, thankfully, I found that you won't really pick up on this noise during recording, but if it does bother you, you can turn off the fan. It's not like you'll suffocate or anything because there are ventilation holes to the outside. Here's how it sounds with me speaking into a condenser mic in the center of the room with and without the fan on. This is a test of my mic with the ventilation fan on. This is a test of my mic with the ventilation fan off. All right, so after using the booth for a month now, here's my honest take. Positives, the soundproofing is excellent, especially for mid to high frequencies like guitar and vocals, just really awesome. It's a sturdy product and it looks and feels like a professional grade room. I absolutely love the white melamine finish that I ordered, and I'm really happy I opted for that upgrade. The standard external finish is similar to the internal finish, but I felt that melamine finish just really added a whole lot. The other positive, I can work anytime without worrying or disturbing my family or my neighbors or them disturbing me. Another positive, the DEMVOX booths come in a variety of sizes, so you don't need to purchase one as large as mine. Smaller modules still provide excellent soundproofing and are perfect for tighter spaces or smaller rooms. You can get bigger ones than these as well. And because the booths are modular, you can increase or decrease the size in 228mm increments. Because of this modular system, you can also build it yourself and you can deconstruct it yourself. So if you need to move houses, you can take the booth with you. It doesn't have to stay in one spot. Final positive I found was that the customer service was absolutely incredible from start to finish. Now, in terms of negatives, it's quite large and heavy, so you need to make sure you have the space for it and that your floor can take the load. This booth weighs over 2.5 tons, so just make sure your floor has the capacity for it. Now, the price is an investment. It's not cheap, I'm not gonna lie. Although I do think it's worth it for what it offers, and DEMVOX, out of all the options, was by far the best value out of the options I explored. And of course, the prices I quoted to you earlier were at the time that I inquired, so those prices may change as you're watching this video, but just be sure to get in contact with them and they'll give you a quote. Last negative that I kind of found was that the instructions to build these DV booths were not step-by-step specific to the booth you order, which means that there's a bit of mental planning and visualization to ensure that you're doing things correctly. Thankfully, their installation team is on call to help if you have any issues, and they answered my questions almost immediately when I had them. I believe their smaller eco booths that they sell do have step-by-step instructions though. And of course, I would have had the option to let them build it and save the hassle of building it myself, but I personally like building things, so I actually didn't mind too much. Overall, the DEMVOX DV858 has been a game changer for me. If you're a musician, a content creator, or just someone who needs a quiet space or a way to make loud noises, I highly recommend checking one out. If you have any questions about these DEMVOX booths, feel free to leave them in the comments. I know this product isn't for everyone, but I had such a fun time putting it together and I'm really happy with the end result, so that's why I'm sharing it with you guys. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time on Guitar Zero to Hero. Cheers.